Hello, everybody. Once again, welcome to Champions Mind MMA. I'm bringing you another video once again, and this time we want to talk about Tony Ferguson and whether the question is, should Tony Ferguson retire or should he continue fighting? This is the question. So this past Saturday, we all saw what happened between Tony Ferguson and Nate Diaz. In my opinion, it was a great fight. It was a kind of a back and forth battle. I don't think there is any indication or for anybody who watched the fight. I don't know what your opinion was, but if you're watching the same fight I was watching, I didn't see Nate Diaz dominating Tony Ferguson during the fight. I think it was it was back and forth. It might have been that Nate Diaz was winning, on the judges' scorecards, but still, I think Tony Ferguson was doing very well, during the fight. I mean, he gave Nate Diaz a lot of problems, with leg kicks and all that. Now, I mean, of course, he got caught into the choke, and Nate Diaz won the fight, via submission. But if it weren't for the choke, that fight would have gone all through the 5 rounds as I had predicted. Depending on how well Tony Ferguson would continue to do throughout the 4th round. I mean, he got Diaz down. He could probably have held him down if he didn't get caught in the choke. And depending on how well he did, he would have done on the fifth round. Who knows? He might even win the fight. Now, again, as I say, from my opinion, this was kind of a back and forth battle. But also, we need to look at the circumstances, surrounding this fight. We need to remember that Tony Ferguson was scheduled to fight Jilian Lang Jing. All right, so Jiang Li. So he was scheduled to fight him, but with the whole thing, with Hamza Chimaev missing weight, so they had to reshuffle the entire card. And of course, Tony Ferguson ended up fighting Nate Diaz. So he was scheduled, for a 3-round fight. I think that fight was I think it was the co-main event. Now he was promoted to the main event of a fight that was 5 rounds instead of 3 rounds. Fighting a completely different opponent that he did not prepare for. And again, in my opinion, I mean, he did very well. I mean, it's the same goes for Diaz as well, except Diaz should have already been prepared for 5 rounds because he was in the main event. He already prepared for a 5-round fight. But after than that, I mean, it's the same circumstance for him as far as fighting a different opponent rather than the person you prepared for. But it was a back and forth battle. Diaz wasn't dominating. There is a couple of times I think I saw Tony Ferguson kind of turn a weird way, and I think his corner told him to not turn his back. Those would be the only thing that I would probably say that I wasn't, I didn't like. But obviously, he is he's training now at a new gym, with new coaches, different things. You never know, why, he would be at the position that he was, during the fight. But other than that, I think he performed, pretty well. Again, I mean, maybe against a different opponent, it could be in a different story, but with Diaz, but Diaz is still very relevant, and among the fight community. As a matter of fact, he said that he's stepping away from MMA, from the UFC, and he plans on coming back. So, I mean, and we're not asking him to retire. And again, I mean, he won. That's great. But he wasn't dominating Tony Ferguson. If you watch the same fight I watched, you cannot tell me that Diaz was dominating Tony Ferguson. It was a back and forth battle. he might have won the scorecards, the judges scorecards, fine, but and of course he won by the choke, but we're not gonna say that he was like dominating Tony Ferguson. And also we need to we can now Tony Ferguson can retire if he wants to. I mean, obviously this is a call that he can make. I mean, he lost, this is his fifth loss in a row. I mean, he can decide to retire. I mean, people can retire at any time. I mean, Khabib retired, after he defended his belt for what was it, the second or the first time? Some know that. So I mean, he retired. I mean, you don't have to be, to lose, 10, 20 times to retire, but as far as his skills and the way he was performing, I don't think that should be an indicator for people to be calling for Tony Ferguson to retire, or to try to influence the UFC, or for the UFC by themselves to make the decision to force him to retire. I think obviously he's probably a few pegs down in the rankings, but let him fight some guy in the top 15 and see how he does, and then just let him fight a few more, a few 2 or 3 more fights, and see how he does. Obviously it will keep getting more critical for Tony Ferguson if he continues to lose. But if we're gonna base his next performance on the performance he had against Diaz as an opponent, he did not prepare for a class, a weight class he hadn't fought in so many years. This is his first fight, coming back to welterweight, and he performed the way he performed, and he performed through all maybe half of round 4. So the fight was pretty close to being done, and I didn't see him gassing or anything like that. I mean, he was still fighting. Of course, there was a lot of antics, during that fight between both fighters. They were having fun out there. But I definitely think that, Tony Ferguson, this is his decision, whether he wants to retire or not. But I don't think he should be forced to retire or get kicked out of the UFC. So, yeah, I mean, he lost to Gagey. I mean, Gagey is probably, I don't know, number 3 to 5, maybe 5 at at the lowest. He lost to Beneil Dariush, same thing. Definitely in the top 5. He lost to Charles Oliveira, who is the number 1 contender. As a matter of fact, in my book, he is still the champion. He was just a couple of months ago the champion. So, I mean, who did he lose to? I mean, that we should push him back out all of a sudden to say, hey, you can no longer compete. I mean, look at Anderson Silva. I mean, would I consider to be the the GOAT, and all MMA, one of my favorite, if not my favorite, fighter of all time. I mean, he fought for a long time. I mean, obviously, I would say his story is a little different from Tony Ferguson. He was a champion for a long time and everything. But when Diaz, not Diaz, when Silva, lost to Chris Weidman, a couple of times. I mean, he was given, quite a few opportunities, to fight different guys at different levels, and at some point, he was gone. But I think, Tony Ferguson has been in the business for a long time, and he's put in, quite some magic performances over the years. He's beat, the who's who, in the UFC. So, again, I think just losing to, a couple of guys who are number 1, number 2, number 3, champions, in the division, and in the UFC, I don't think that should qualify him to just, pack his things and leave. I think this is the time for, again, let him start fighting, some of the lower caliber guys, in the top 15 guys, and see how he does. And maybe at this point, they may start having a conversation with Tony Ferguson, what he wants his future to be. But anyway, so this is my opinion. Tony Ferguson should keep fighting, if he wants to, unless he wants to retire himself. But I don't think he should be forced to retire. And so this is my opinion. So you guys, leave your comments, what you think, leave your opinion. I look forward to talking to you again very soon, most likely tomorrow. Yeah, we're gonna have another video for you tomorrow to talk about this upcoming event, this fight night this weekend. So everybody, I'll see you next time.